Okay, I've moved the camera around to as close to looking over my shoulder as I can come up with without actually bumping into the thing all the time. Along with all of this, you hear me complaining a lot lately about the camera being the problem. It's a lot of the tripods for the lights and the umbrellas and all of that. I have a newfound respect for Hollywood movie makers, I can tell you that. Anyway, uh, I'm just going to start in on this and comment on anything that comes to mind while I'm doing it. Otherwise, it's just going to be watching me whittle away on some wood and some rubber here, or plastic. So the top line and the bottom line are both wonky, and I'm going to try to lower that entire angle here to bring that a little bit lower at where it meets the bowl, and a little bit so that the bottom and top lines are a little bit more parallel. Now, not 100%. That'll look odd, but to lower that angle by a degree or so. And of course, that runs into the stem. Now, even though this design of pipe looks to be square everywhere, so to speak, it's an optical illusion in the same way that if bowls are exactly 90 degrees to shanks, they tend to look like they're tilted that way. They're normally tilted away several degrees, and then to your eye that looks correct. It's a what do they call that? An optical illusion almost. But the top line of this is not parallel to the bottom line of the shank, which surprises most people when they see it's square. Well, the same thing applies to shanks in that if they run dead parallel down their entire length, it looks like they're being compressed and pinched, so that they actually are slightly divergent as it goes toward the button. There's a little, it does that. And so we're going to be doing that. In fact, I already have in the way this one's been cut. But to be aware of that is important, because you might otherwise get the thing just as squared up as you possibly can and think you've done a wonderful job, but it looks wrong and you're not sure why. You do some research and discover, wait a minute, I should have left some flare. Well, the material's already gone by then. There is no rewind button. This is entirely a subtractive exercise. So know that going in. Now we will also be doing the logo on this stem, but not until this cut here gets determined and finalized, so to speak, because the position within it is important enough that to be exact, you want to have the stem in a closer to finished shape before you go marking the position of that dot that's going to go there. So, without further ado, it's always fun on the first swipe to just grind into something, right? We'll see how she goes. Now, I strongly recommend using a bracelet. Now, you can hold this in your hand and go to town like so, but then you've got two things that move as opposed to just the one, and it gives you better control in the long term if you restrict the motion as much as possible except for where you want it. And this isn't going to take all that much. Wood is surprisingly soft when you're dealing with the final nuances. It don't get to grinding, because you'll look at it and say, oh crap, I went too far. And again, there's no putting material back. So the secret, or the key, or whatever phrase you want to use for this kind of a situation, is check your work constantly. Another thing is this is not dead flat. You think it is, you'd say it's got four flat sides, but actually they're slightly domed, like a road. They call that there's a term for that in highway engineering. I can't remember what it's called now, but there's actually some of this going on. With roads, it's for drainage. With pipes, it's so that it just looks right. If you truly made that dead flat, it would reflect light in such a way it would look odd. It would look wrong. Now, a very big part of doing this particular project is knowing how to deal with the difference in hardness between the rubber or acrylic, whichever you're using, and the wood. It doesn't matter how carefully or delicately you try to get those to blend and be flat. You can't do it. You'll always end up with a sag in the wood and something of a bulge, a crown. That's what they call the thing on the roads, is crown. A crown on this going the wrong way. And I'll show you how to deal with that when we're in the final phase of the shaping here. And another occurrence of the optical illusion thing is that you want this to flare ever so slightly. Not much at all. If you notice it, it's almost too much, but that is this, the line of this is not actually a dead-on extension of the wood. It's going to have a ever so slight tilt upward to it. And that's, again, maybe it's because it's black it has to do that. I don't know, but it looks wrong if you don't do it. That's the best explanation I can come up with. I don't know the technical term for how brains process certain things, but by the way, my right elbow, I've situated all of this stuff, the table height, this saddle thing, whatever you call that, brace deal, and the height of my chair I'm sitting in, because I do this motion a lot. I have my right elbow is locked into the top of my thigh and hip so that it swings loosely without any shoulder involvement, and so I don't support my arm. My arm is supported against something, so that this kind of motion here is just nothing to it. I can do it all day long, and it's very controllable. Okay, we'll take some out of the other side just to get it going here. Now, normally working alone, I would have my dust vacuum thing on because briar dust doesn't like humans. It is kind of like a mild pepper spray in the air for some people, and I'm one of them. I don't like briar dust up my nose. It kind of, after a while, it's not like tear gas or anything like that, but it's in that trends kind of in that direction enough that an extended exposure will bother me for several days. There have actually been some significant pipe makers over the years that have had to retire from making pipes because they became actually allergic to it. They had an allergic response, which is no fun, no joke. So what I'm going to do here now, you're seeing the process, and what you've witnessed to this point is all that you will continue to see no matter how long I leave the camera on. That's all you're going to see is with this stick and wherever it needs what you see. And all I'm going to do is remove a little material and check for the, check the line, look at it, and then go back, and we're just going to keep puttering like that. I'm going to do the rim that way. Everything's going to be like that. So I've talked over the top of this enough to give you the philosophy of it, or whatever the right term is, that continued watching would really serve no purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off so I can turn on the dust collector and finish up this step. I'll call it a step because I'm going to just be using this one tool. We're going to use other tools to get into this crease and to modify the shape of the stem, but we're talking about the wood part right now. So there you go. Back in a minute.